Welcome to this Automation World webcast sponsored by Red Lion and focused on showing you how to enhance productivity through visual management. I'm David Greenfield, Media and Events Director for Automation World, and I'll be moderating this webcast. Joining me today are Jesse Benefiel, Manager for Red Lion's Human Machine Interface, Protocol Conversion, and Data Acquisition Platforms, and Bob Casca, the third-generation owner and president of Chicago Electric. Bob has led his company in the creation of numerous new products, including the Pro Display, which is based on Red Lion technology. Now, before turning this webcast over to Jesse, I just wanted to take a quick moment to set the scene for today's discussion. Whether your operation follows Kaizen, lean manufacturing, total quality management, Six Sigma, or any other continuous improvement program, two things have to happen to enable the improvement. First, there has to be the collection of key performance indicators, and second, there has to be communication of those indicators to the people who can most affect the improvement, the production floor personnel. Now, to help explain one of the more effective means of communicating KPIs to production floor personnel, this webcast will detail the concept of visual management and how it invokes the Hawthorne effect to increase efficiency and reduce downtime. And to illustrate how this actually takes place, a real-world example of an installed solution and the effect it had on productivity will be described. Now, after Jesse's and Bob's presentations, we'll conclude with a Q&A session so that you can put your questions directly to Bob and Jesse. And please be aware that you don't have to wait until the end of the webcast to ask your questions. You can input your questions into the webcast interface at any time, and we'll get to them following the presentations. So now, I'll turn things over to Jesse.
Thank you, David, and I'd like to also thank Automation World for the opportunity to present visual management introduction. Again, I'm Jesse Benefiel, Product Manager with Red Lion, and what we're going to cover today is obviously what is visual management, not only in the broader sense, but specifically how it relates to displaying KPIs and and-on messages on the factory floor. We're going to show you some examples of some very simple KPIs and messages that will help drive productivity. We'll take a look at the solutions that are available to manufacturers and producers. And then we'll talk a bit about how to select a solution that best fits your environment. And then talk a bit about how you might want to calculate what the bottom line benefit is to your organization to assist you in convincing management, your supervisors, bosses, etc., on the need for visual management tools. And there's a lot of benefit. Automation World magazine put it well that real-time profitability helps businesses. That particular article focused quite heavily on pulling data from equipment and machinery. Our presentation is using that data to drive productivity at the personnel level. So what is visual management? In its broadest sense, what it allows is anyone that enters a workplace to immediately understand whether or not they're familiar with what's going on in that particular environment, what's within control and what's out of control, what's right, what's wrong. So essentially, you can see what's going on at a very quick glance. It's a very, very broad definition. What we're going to focus on is using specifically KPIs and and-on messages, communicating information to the personnel on the plant floor, actually their performance. What that does is it provides a sense of ownership to personnel. No one wants to be the anchor to an organization. Everyone wants to know that they're a contributing factor. It allows managers and supervisors to focus attention in the appropriate places. This all results in an increase in efficiency, quality, and uptime. Obviously, that's the goal here. And, the real goal is to drive productivity and therefore profitability. Now, if you mention visual management in a production environment, you're going to get a wide range of answers if you were to ask someone what visual management is. And so I wanted to take the time to outline the other types of visual management. Realize visual management was really started by the Toyota production system, which was a philosophy of production management developed in the mid-'70s. And that's really transformed the production environments. Today we commonly refer to lean manufacturing, Six Sigma from the Motorola side, terms like Kaizen and Andon and Genba all originated from that. What I'm showing here on this particular slide is what we here at Redline refer to as a visual method sheet. And what this is using pictures to assist production personnel in their job. So instead of written instructions that are hard to follow, we make a strong effort to use colors, shapes of symbols, and pictures of the actual product. So that's a form of visual management. A Kanban board, which some of you may employ, is a simple means of using a visual board to drive a process or a development project. And there's a lot of tools out there that are computer-based for this kind of stuff today. Even here at Redline, in the development side, we frequently find that the simplest way to drive a product is to draw some lines on a board and move Post-it notes around. It gives visibility to every single stage of the process. A Kanban bin is another common visual management tool to indicate the status of raw materials. Or do you have enough? Are you running low? Do you need to reorder? And here you can see that there's a clearly identifiable bin indicating that it's running low. Now, the type of visual management where KPIs and on messages help drive productivity is by communicating key performance indicators to the personnel on the plant floor. So I keep throwing this term around, KPIs, key performance indicators. That's an actual measurement of the production's performance, but more importantly, it's just as likely to be the performance of the individual or the individual running that particular piece of equipment. And-on messages. Now, and-on is known, it translates in English to signboard. It's a derivative of a Japanese word that meant paper lantern, and paper lanterns used to be used to communicate very effectively depending on the color and positioning, etc. Today we use it in lean manufacturing environments to mean a formal method by which you communicate lying down or problems throughout an organization. One of the guiding principles of the Toyota production system is use visual tools to make sure that no problems are hidden, and that's very, very key. So some example KPIs, information that companies display or you might want to display are things like shift totals and shift targets. What that does is it allows a competitive nature to kick in. Individuals want to know that they're providing to their company, that they're a contributing factor. Entire shifts want to beat the first shift always wants to outperform third shift, for example. So displaying that information in real time helps drive that competitive spirit. Takt time, the drumbeat of production. It's a derivative of a German word. Takt is in, I'm probably butchering the pronunciation, so I apologize to any German speakers. And what that is the pace of production. The Toyota production system believes in the tortoise beats the hare, so it's necessary to develop a rhythm to production and maintain that rhythm. Another very common metric that's displayed is OEE, or overall equipment effectiveness. And what that simply is a measurement of resource utilization. What that is it's a machine or a process's availability times its performance times its quality. And obviously you want that number to be as high as possible. Some Honda, for example, I'm told targets around 85% OEE. World-class organizations would target around 80 to 85%. Some very simple KPIs, things like count. Got to let the employees know where they stand. More importantly is the goal. Let them know what you expect from them. How do they compare their actual production against the goal? Quality folk, of course, want to keep an eye on bad count, so that's an important metric to display. No sense in producing product fast if you're producing it poorly. So those are some very simple KPIs. Now, and-on messages. Again, and-on is a formal means by which you communicate problems throughout an organization. So that's going to involve messages like lying down or conveyor jammed or, hey, this machine's out of parts. We got to do something about it. It's very, very costly to have a machine go down for in many cases, very trivial issues. And if only someone knew about those issues, downtime can be reduced drastically. So how this works, you hear a lot of companies say that they put visual controls in, displaying KPIs and and-on messages, and they get an immediate, absolutely immediate bump in productivity and profitability overnight. And you hear what seem to be crazy numbers till you talk to them, of anything from 10 to 25% efficiency gains, profitability's changed overnight. And really that's a result of what's known as the Hawthorne effect, which originated from a study that was done at the Hawthorne Metal Works 100 years ago. And it was a study in which they played around with the lighting, they played around with temperature, and what they did was they studied the effect that this had on the personnel. And today there's college theses written about it, there's psychology forums that discuss the topic, there's arguments about whether or not the study was flawed, whether it was accurate, how badly the results were interpreted. What it boils down to is all this effort and all this study put into what people could do to modify the environment to cause productivity to go up. They really missed the fact for some time that it wasn't the fact that they were monkeying with the environment, it was the fact they were monitoring the employees. Now today they talk about how there's this subtle effect that if you monitor employees, you're showing them attention. And that attention causes them to take more pride in their work. My view's a little bit more skeptical on that. I say if you're standing over me with a clipboard monitoring my production, of course my productivity is going to go up. I like to pick on salespeople in particular and ask them how would they feel if their productivity was monitored. Of course, salespeople are measured daily by their numbers. All we're doing is taking that same level of scrutiny and monitoring and applying it to the people on the plant floor. So really shining a flashlight. Again, more of a skeptical nature or cynical nature, if you will. I got to fix that machine before my boss notices. You've got a big display that says this line's down. Maintenance personnel don't want their boss knowing how long that line's been down. Again, the competitive nature kicks in. You don't want to be known as the anchor to the process. So that's really what it's all about. What's important to remember is the Hawthorne effect. Sometimes you hear some confusion that the Hawthorne effect is a result of the operator being able to see their production and their contribution to the company. That's not really where it comes in. It's subtle, but it's from the realization that their coworkers and their bosses can see their production, and that's what really kicks in the Hawthorne effect. Now, this is a interesting example. We've all seen those "How am I driving" bumper stickers on the back of vehicles, and the director of the fleet management for the state of Georgia said that they threw these stickers on their vehicles, call the number of drivers driving poorly, and their auto claims went down 30%, savings were in the millions of dollars, et cetera, et cetera. And he goes on to be quoted that his ability to quickly identify at-risk employees was very valuable. And I say, you throw those bumper stickers on the back of my vehicle, I'm going to know. Whether or not I'm a bad driver or not, I'm going to know that people watching me have the ability to make comment. So immediately, my driving style is going to change. Now, there's a lot of different types of visual management solutions out there, and what I don't show here are simple whiteboards, which are still common today. The simplest in the electronic format would be stack lights. Now, these have been around for many, many years, and we range all the way from LED displays to LED marquees. There's dedicated software-based solutions, and of course, a new product from Redline called the Productivity Station. Each of these have pros and cons. What I like about stack lights, and again, these have been around for decades, what I like about stack lights is they're low cost and very simple to understand. Typically, they've got 3, maybe 4, maybe 5 states. Red's obviously bad. Yellow means that attention is necessary, and green means everything's great, the machine's up and running. The problem is it doesn't indicate anything about the individual machine's performance. It's running, but is it running to the level that it should be? Is it producing parts at the rate that it should be? Is quality suffering? That information's not available. there's no measure of time. So when that red light comes on to indicate the machine has gone down and it needs servicing, there's nothing to say how long it's been down. So you can imagine an operator or a maintenance person who sees the red light on, it's 100 yards away, it's easily identifiable if something's wrong, but he'd rather stop and have a donut, maybe a coffee on the way over there. So he's going to take his time. Whereas if you have a visual display that indicates the machine's been down for 22 minutes, he might not want to let his boss know it's been down that long. So it provides a greater motivation if you actually provide more data than just a simple light can provide. The next step up in the continuum would be LED numerical displays. Again, these are low cost. They can be had from anywhere from $100 to $500 or $600, depending on the size and the capability of the product. In their simplest form, you have 2, 3, 4-inch high displays that are available or visible from anywhere from 80 to 200 feet away. Even a little 2 1/4-inch display is available at about 80, is visible at about 80 feet away. Problem there is you can only measure a couple of KPIs effectively. If you want to measure more than 1 or 2, now you're starting to stack these things up. It's going to drive the cost up. It's also going to drive confusion. You can't quickly look up at the display and determine easily. Remember, the goal here is to make it easy when you walk onto the plant floor what is within specification, what isn't within specification or control. So you start to add confusion the more KPIs that you try to display on these displays. And of course, there's no means of and-on messaging on the simpler displays. They do offer serial communications, alarms, things like that, so you could tie back into MES or MRP systems, and you do have the ability to fire alarms if, say, the rate falls below a particular value. Of course, that's only good if you then combine it with a stack light. Some more modern solutions on the market today, LED marquees, have probably been around almost 10 years, a little bit longer in their monochrome form. What's nice about these, you can display a lot of KPIs with very clear labels as to what they are. That example in that picture has, 5 KPIs on it. It's very easy to understand what it's displaying. You can use color on the more modern free color displays or full color displays even, and that allows them to grab attention much more quickly than a standard monochrome display. The higher end versions will have some kind of communications capability, maybe computational capability, so you can take count and time, combine that, turn it into more advanced metrics, more advanced KPIs. And again, the higher end units will even offer some data logging or text messaging alert capability. Now the problem there is LEDs, even though cost is coming down on those, these are a relatively high cost solution for what you get out of them. And they do have limited graphics capability. Of course, limited graphics on something that's going to display numbers very large may or may not be an issue, but again, their relative high cost is what makes them problematic. You'll see a lot of different software solutions out there, very powerful. They range in price from anywhere from a couple of $1,000s for a software license all the way up to 6 figures, depending on their capability. They're very scalable. Also, sometimes the scalability drives the cost, so the more you use it, the more you have to pay for it. Some of the cons is some of them aren't very good at collecting the data. Some of the packages I've seen are very good at getting data out of existing back-end MES systems. Others are great at crunching the numbers, but they have no means of getting the data off the shop floor, so then you have to integrate them with OPC communication servers to actually be able to get data out of PLCs or counters or timers that are on the equipment. The other big concern with these solutions is if you're going to make a commitment to spend 5 or 6 figures on a piece of software, you're not going to want that software disk collecting the proverbial dust. What you're going to need to do is make sure that there's a team of people, whether they be systems analysts and IT personnel, that are ready, willing, and able to work with that package and get it deployed quickly so you can start realizing a return on your investment. It does no good to bring that expensive package in and then make it a side job for your existing personnel. it could be a long time before you realize a return on the investment. It requires a very strong commitment. And what we've seen as the trend over the last few years is to leverage consumer-grade TVs. Now, what's great about these is their prices ever falling due to the fact of improvements and enhancements in LCD displays and LED backlights, and of course that's the price is significantly driven by the consumer market. So the more modern solutions leverage today's low-cost LCD TVs into a productivity solution. So obviously I wouldn't be telling you about all these different solutions if I didn't think that we had a product that met the needs of our customers. So real quick, what the Productivity Station is a device that leverages the ever-falling prices of LCD TVs and turns them into a productivity display, resulting in a very high price performance ratio. Obviously it allows unlimited graphics with high def capability. What's great about this solution is it doesn't involve any IT involved. It doesn't require any IT involvement. It's not to say it's not IT friendly, but it's not necessary to involve an IT person or a systems analyst to make use of it. It does communicate with virtually any automation device, and it has some built-in tools to allow the continuous improvement side of the Toyota production system. Now, when looking for your own visual management solution, one of the challenges that a lot of companies face is how they get the data out of existing equipment. There's, as I mentioned, there's software, which typically struggles at trying to get the data off the shop floor. It's good at getting the data out of the MES systems. If you decide to implement a visual management solution, you got to consider the automation devices that you have. Do you have PLCs from a single manufacturer? Are the drives from the same manufacturer? How about the panel meters, the temperature controllers, etc.? If they're all from the same manufacturer, you might be in good shape. If they're from disparate manufacturers, then you got to think long and hard about how you're going to get that data out of those systems. The last thing you want to do is have to rejig or reprogram the automation equipment that is on the factory floor, because that represents a risk and a potential cost. Again, you don't want to touch a machine that's already running. Ideally, you want to tack onto that, reduce the risk of downtime and disruption to production. Our solution obviously has a DVI output, which is compatible with today's TVs. There are other solutions out there. A lot of the PC-based software solutions do offer the ability to drive TVs. Do keep in mind that some of them require that you put a computer out on the plant floor. Again, by leveraging today's TVs, you're not limited to simple KPIs. You can do very advanced, use more colors than even are necessary to draw attention to the display. And as that one picture indicates there, you can get as sophisticated as actually drawing the process in detail. The Productivity Station and other solutions out on the market, this is important when you're taking a look at what's available. Do remember that if you're going to go to the trouble of collecting all those KPIs, calculating them and displaying them, you're going to want to record them. One of the tenets or principles of the Toyota production system is the continuous improvement aspect. And realize that the visual management tool is just a tool to drive the 14 principles of the Toyota production system. To gain the benefits or to be able to realize the continuous improvement portion, you're going to want to log all of those KPIs over time. You're going to want to log those andon messages. At the end of the month, you're going to want to run a Pareto analysis. Take a look at the reasons you had machine downtime issues. Attack the top 2 or 3 problems that you've had. So make sure that the tool that you select has those logging capabilities, and also make sure, we want to keep the IT people as our friends, make sure that those tools integrate easily with MES, MIS, and ERP systems. Make sure it integrates into the back end. More advanced systems today not only allow you to inform everyone on the shop floor of the issues, they extend that notification to people that aren't even within the four walls of the organization. They do that through text messages and email. I used to just laugh when people say someday your toaster would be networked, and today I'm not laughing with M-to-M, machine-to-machine communications has just taken off over the last few years, and the more modern KPI visual management tools now make use of those technologies to alert remote personnel. And of course, if you're going to alert remote personnel of issues that need attention, the higher-end systems now allow you to take control of those processes. Now, you may not want to take full control of the process remotely. Obviously, there's some safety concerns you better be aware of in that regard. But you can imagine a maintenance person sitting at home, an alarm goes off, he wakes up out of bed, or he's on call at a picnic, he looks at his cell phone and he sees that there's a particular problem on a machine that may require attention in the future. In some manufacturing environments, production personnel are going to immediately see that as an opportunity to stop work and wait for the maintenance person to come in and resolve the issue. The ability to take control of the process remotely would allow the technician to clear the alarms, potentially make some adjustments to the machine on the fly, allowing production to continue uninterrupted. Might not require a drive by the maintenance personnel at all, drastically reducing downtime. Now, in our particular case, what we've done is we've leveraged software that's already deployed, our Crimson software that's already deployed at thousands upon thousands of manufacturers worldwide. What I want to stress to you is make sure whatever tool you select is friendly to automation and maintenance personnel. There's a lot of solutions out on the market today that are tailored more towards the IT side. And that's great, again, if you have the bandwidth. I've spoke to an electronics manufacturer in the automotive industry, and very highly automated organization. They had TVs all over the place, not using the Redline solution. This was, they had a software-based solution at pulling data out of their MES systems. And the biggest complaint of the continuous improvement engineers at that organization was, all these visual tools are great, but we want to take control back from IT. They know what metrics they need on the plant floor, and they want to be able to affect change quickly. So their challenge was that every time they wanted to make a change, they actually had to write a work order to IT, wait weeks or months before those changes would be realized on the shop floor. They'd come in the next day, the solution would be realized, but it wasn't exactly what they asked for, and they'd have to go through the whole work order process again. So they wanted to take control back from IT. So when you pick a solution, think about who's going to implement it. Is it going to be your IT staff? Is it going to be systems analysts? Or are you going to leverage the people who know how to get the data off the shop floor, which are your maintenance and your automation personnel? And make sure that the solution that you pick is friendly to those people. Now, there's a lot of different types of organizations out there. I'm going to say Redline's in the first category, here. Redline does the majority of their manufacturing here in York, Pennsylvania. Obviously, we have very sophisticated surface mount machines to populate the boards. But after that, there's not a whole lot of automation. We have a lot of people doing final assembly, a lot of people doing tests. We have all this data in our back-end systems, but it's kind of late by the time it gets there. So we could probably produce a report very easily that showed yesterday's production. In those particular cases, you still can use visual management, even if you have to resort to using whiteboards. Nothing wrong with that other than the fact that the data is delayed, and it's also very time-consuming. You have to have someone calculate the KPIs, walk out on the shop floor, write those KPIs down. Again, it's effective but time-consuming and prone to mistakes as well. Now here at Redline, we have an initiative where we're looking at where we can put sensors within the manual processes that we have to be able to display more data on our visual management tools. The solution in a lot of cases might just be a simple photo eye and a counter to actually retrieve that data. Also, as I mentioned earlier, think of the brand of automation devices that you have. Is it all Allen Bradley? Is it all Siemens? Is it all Mitsubishi? Or do you have a lot of different products? And do you just want to get the data out of your PLCs and your drives, or do you want to incorporate barcode scanners? Do you have to add photo eyes? Do you have to add counters? Are there existing temperature controllers? Quite often companies find themselves wanting to implement these visual tools, but just you're struggling to get that data out of them. So make sure that the solution you pick is flexible enough to do that for you. If you're going to involve IT, do they have the bandwidth? That's where I see a lot of visual management solutions fall flat, is the package, particularly software, is purchased, and then it's not really made use of. And that puts a bad taste on, obviously, everyone's mouth, that the return on investment isn't being realized as fast as it could be. And I think I've covered this sufficiently. Who's going to implement that solution? Make sure the solution's friendly to them. So what's your ROI? That's pretty tough to say. All I can do is offer some guidance on how you might calculate that, and it's pretty straightforward. It's pretty simple. Think about any particular line or machine in your facility, and think about how much it produces in revenue. And if you don't have the revenue figures, if you're not privy to that information, just consider how many widgets or gallons or feet of material that the machine produces. What would happen if you could increase productivity by, say, just 10%? What would happen if you could reduce downtime by just a few percent? Usually results in very, very big numbers. Does one line or shift produce more than another? Yeah, that's probably the case in most organizations. But do you know why that one line produces more than another? And what tools can you put in place to find out? How often is line down? Why is it down? What's the total uptime and downtime? All important factors. Also don't forget to consider things like machine damage or scrapped material. We had a customer in France that extrudes very expensive cabling. I never did actually visit that particular facility. I don't know if it was transoceanic cable or what they were producing, but it was very expensive. And the supervisor was growing very frustrated because his operators would turn on the machine, they'd start to extrude the final insulation layer on this very expensive cable, and halfway through the process, they'd run out of plastic pellets. He grew very frustrated, didn't know what to do about it, and finally he put in visual tools, not really for his employees, he put the visual tools in for himself. So what he did is every time he heard a machine kick on, he could look up at the display that showed how much plastic pellets were in the feeder hoppers, and he could determine whether or not action had to be taken. So do consider things like machine downtime and repair, as well as scrap, when you're doing your ROI analysis. And then take all that information and just do some simple math. Again, what would a 5 or 10% output increase equate to? If you could reduce downtime by, again, just a couple of percent, what would that equate to? And I think everyone's surprised when they actually walk through this exercise how big of a result that just a few percent improvement equates to. And then keep in mind the fact that none of these solutions that I've talked about, short of software, none of these solutions that I've talked about are more than a few $1,000s. So there's a very, very compelling reason to put some kind of visual management tool in place for your organization. Now at that point, I'm going to turn it over to Bob Kaska, president of Chicago Electric, who's actually deployed numerous visual management solutions.
Thank you, Jesse. I'd like to start off just by thanking Red Lion and Automation World for the opportunity to participate in today's webcast. I'm going to present actually 6 different examples of visual management, ones that we have implemented. Some quick background on Chicago Electric. We're proud to be a 102-year-old company. We were founded in 1910. For the last 12 plus years, we've been a distributor for Red Lion, and the majority of our activity with Red Lion has centered around their visual management tools. A number of years ago, we took the Red Lion product and branded it for ourselves. So in the realm of Chicago Electric, we refer to Pro Displays. So this started in 2005. To date, we have over 450 Pro Displays installed, and it's encompassed the full range of technology that we looked at earlier in the display. And it's really the advance in display technology that has, I think, driven the success of the product. We started off with a simple 2-line LED display that quickly migrated to a large format 3-color LED display. But what has really driven recent success with over 150 installations has been the comparative low cost of the video display. So today, Pro Display is based entirely on the typically a 55-inch display. The first application we'll look at is very straightforward. This is a consumer product, assembly and test area. And here, all we were looking for is just some basic efficiency information and piece per hour rate information. One of the key aspects here is we were able to directly communicate with the Omron PLC that was on the machine for count information, and then with just those few variables, bring those in and create the displays. The other thing you'll note here is this is actually related to 2 different testing fixtures. So the customer is able to keep the cost down of the Pro Display system by connecting it to 2 different machines. And we would toggle through these slides, through the screens, depending on which machine was running. The efficiency calculations were all done within the Red Lion unit. We were just pulling pure count information out of the PLC. Our second example is on a fairly large paper converting machine. This machine's about 300 feet long. We were replacing a older style LED display, and the key difference is in that display, all we were able to do in the original one was show feet per minute. With the new Pro Display, we were able to show a target rate and then relay to the plant floor how they were doing against that target. And that's really the essence. So many displays that are out there are just showing you what you are doing. They're not comparing that to what you should be doing. So as simple as just loading that target in there helps drive productivity and does it on a continuous basis. The other thing you'll note here, we have shift comparisons. Jesse mentioned earlier the effectiveness of getting a little competition between the shifts, and we do that here showing total linear footage and percent uptime for all 3 shifts over 2 days. The other thing, we have a little safety meeting announcement here. Using the remote view feature from any desktop, you can create a message to rotate out onto the display. One of the most important features in this display is that we have a direct link to a very popular piece of software. This is in the corrugated box industry called Kiwi Plan. And with that software link, we're able to download footage information and more accurate target rates. So they know when I'm running this particular mix of paper grades, I should be able to run it at a certain foot per minute. So that target changes dynamically directly from the software scheduling system. Our third example is also in the corrugated container industry, and this is our most popular. This is on the machines that are actually making the boxes that are doing the printing and folding in the plant. We have well over 100 of these installed. Here we're also linking to Kiwi Plan and pulling down target information, again, on a per order basis. So the scheduling software is quite sophisticated, and it has historical data knowing when this order runs on this machine, it should run at this rate. And they actually tweak the algorithm so that the production rate goes up as a target, helping drive increased productivity on the machine. The other thing you'll note in all of these, we have a downtime display, one of the nice things is that because we have a very intelligent display, we're able to change on condition. So we know when the machine is down, we're able to then pull up the red downtime screen and start accumulating downtime in minutes for the current event, and then we'll also show total shift downtime as well. One thing to point out, and just sort of the politics, if you will, of visual management, when we started in this application, these were only put on the brand new machine. So the customer would spend a couple $1 million for one of these machines. They'd clean up the whole work area. They'd put in fancy lighting. They'd clean the floor. They'd put in their beautiful new machine. And literally the crown over the machine was the big flat screen display. And that sent a message that this machine was special and this machine was new. And we're happy to report now that those crowns are spreading to the existing machines. I'll talk a little more about that later. The next example is this is a classic and-on system. This was a greenfield consumer products plant in Pennsylvania. This is a 1 million square foot facility. They put in 11 55-inch displays all over the plant to display real-time and-on conditions. So the screen on the left was pretty much the permanent and-on screen, and the values, the red and yellow and green boxes would change based on real-time conditions. So not only did it use the modular controller for video, we used a couple other Redline touchscreens out on the plant floor to drive the and-on information. So if they ran out of caps, they'd hit a button on the screen, and that would drive the main display. And those displays were all over a very large facility. So when you have a big plant and a number of production lines, it was an efficient way for them to communicate with just the large format displays. Our fifth application really shows, we've talked about the value of the flat screen TV, and so in this case we're able to take that TV and put it in a custom NEMA 4X enclosure and put it out into a food grade environment. So we don't have to go to the expense of a very specialized NEMA 4 television. We can use a regular television and put it in a custom enclosure. To point out in this unit, again, it's an example of where we're able to pull data directly, in this case out of a Allen Bradley ControlLogix PLC platform. So the information is already there. We just have to literally go in and grab it, and then we can modify it and configure it and make it useful on the plant floor. This customer was also very interested in having some additional messages of, personnel and safety and happy birthday signs, and so the big screen doesn't have to be, the menacing eye in the sky. It can be a thank you to somebody on their birthday, or a recognition of achievement by a particular crew. Get to the last one here. This is a very recent installation that we've done. This company is making plumbing fixtures and making a lot of them. In this case, again, we're looking at data from 4 different lines. So they were able to spread the cost of this display through really an entire production area. We simply toggle through the screens. There's a collective screen that you can see here in the middle, and to the left is one of the 4 screens. So in a typical implementation, we're going to be rotating between the screens, and then if there's a condition, we'll jump to that screen. Again, in this example, we were interfaced to a Allen Bradley ControlLogix PLC to pull real-time data, and added a couple more small touchscreens in order to be able to record downtime reasons. So that was a key issue for them, is they wanted to be able to start data logging downtime, and so we're doing that through the Redline HMI. We also used an HMI to load target rates, so that this system can be completely autonomous from any of the other software in the plant. You load the target rates in, and away you go. And it's an important point, and we'll flip down to some summary here. one of the things we talk about with customers is the flexibility of this product. We do have great hooks, meaning that we can take a simple counter or encoder and clock a machine and then derive a number of data points after that. Or we can communicate to a plant floor PLC or even more sophisticated software platforms within the plant to either pull data or to push data from the Pro Display. As we mentioned before, we're leveraging the low cost of the consumer-grade screen. They're holding up quite well on the plant floors, really very few problems. And if somebody has a problem, they can go to Best Buy and get a replacement screen and stay in business. Another important fact, as we've talked about, this product is IT-free and PC-free. You don't need the IT department involved, and you don't need a Windows computer to make this all happen. As we mentioned, it's a very smart display. We can change on condition. We can create new KPIs from basic data. And for many customers, this is serving as the foundation for their plant floor data collection. Most places don't really have anything out clocking the machines that can communicate. And so often the Pro Display starts that process. Some summary points on visual management in general, what we've learned in selling these for many years in a lot of places. The key issue is that this is providing real-time and actionable information. When we see the whiteboards, we point out to the customer that when the crew walks in tomorrow to find out how they did today, it's just too late. There's nothing that they can do about whatever the level of productivity was on the prior day. If we're showing that in real time and there's 2 hours left in the shifts and they're at 98% of the goal, they still have the opportunity to achieve the goal for the day. And so that real-time nature is very important. We talk a lot about literally hanging expectations out for everybody to see, and we don't interpret it as a negative. These days people want to do a good job. They want to help their companies be productive. And so by effectively and continuously communicating those expectations, you can get a very real improvement. And it's not perceived negatively. One of our customers came up with an innovative idea, and they asked us to compute in real time whether or not the crew on the machine was receiving a bonus. And so with a little bit of programming, we were able to do that. And so now they like it. The crew knows, hey, am I in bonus territory for today, for this shift? And that is certainly a benefit in driving productivity. A final point, and it's a simple one, but we've seen it to be true. And it's part of Hawthorne where just a change would help drive productivity. And the Pro Display, that 55-inch screen up on the wall, it does shake things up. It is a new tool. It's vibrant. It's colorful. It's different. It's modern. And so even on a 30-year-old piece of machine that's been banging away every day, it's something that can be done at a very effective cost to drive productivity and to literally just shake it up on the floor. So we've seen people buy these just for that, with not a clear handle on whether or not it's really going to improve productivity, but it does. And a final note, we offer these on a guaranteed basis, and we've never had one sent back. People put them up, they're seeing a benefit. Some of it's very quantifiable, and some of it is more subjective. But the Pro Display we've seen to be a very effective tool to drive visual management. And that is back to Mr. Greenfield.
All right. Well, thank you, Bob, and thank you, Jesse. So now, as we get ready to start the question and answer session, I just want to remind everybody once again to please go ahead and input your questions into the webcast interface so that we can address them to Bob and Jesse at this point. We've already been getting in a number of questions over the course of the webcast, so we'll go ahead and dive into those as the new ones come in. And this first one is asking, in talking about these visual displays, are there options for displaying data that reside in Microsoft Access databases in addition to the type of data that's collected directly from machines?
I believe that one was for me then.
I think that's a fair bet. I think so.
Yes, there is. There's various different ways to get the data out of the back-end systems. Using a couple of solutions from Redline. It depends. I think the question was specifically Microsoft Access. There's a lot of different plugins available to get software out of various software platforms. Sure, you can write macros, you can write your own code, but there's a lot of tools, off-the-shelf tools that can be had for either freeware or next to nothing that'll pull data from all the popular platforms and move them into other solutions. And we've helped our customers in various ways and in pointing them in the right directions for the tools that are out there.
Okay. Now, I believe this question might be more for Bob, but Jesse, feel free to chime in as well. This is asking, a lot of the presentation talked about showing the data from the machines, to drive operator actions and correct operator actions. But what about from a supervisory point of view? Is there any supervisory use of these visual management boards to help them drive corrective actions and improvements?
Yes, and it's really twofold. One is just the sheer size of the display makes it visible from anywhere, any line of sight in the plant. You're going to be able to see the 55-inch screen, a lot better than you're going to see a stack light. And even if you can't read it, if it's red, it's time to start walking that way. The other thing that's inherent is if we can get an IP address from the customer, we can just put this on their network, and all of the displays are available from any plant floor PC, or if the supervisor has appropriate access, he can see it on his smartphone. So the visibility of the display is, number one, bigger and bolder, and allows them to see it even if they're not on the plant floor and even if they're not in the facility. And that's all standard features.
Okay. Now, another point that was brought up a lot in both presentations today is the options to present, a variety of indicators on these displays. But is there a best practice in terms of how many indicators are key in any operations? This attendee is asking, is it possible? It seems that there could be too many values put on a screen. Is there any sort of best practice on which ones should be displayed or how many per screen?
Let me give at least our response. We have found that customers will back off, will make screens simpler once they're up rather than more complex. So every company has, 3 or maybe 4 things that are really important about that machine, and really important that the operators understand them. OEE may not mean much to many operators, but bonus money means a lot. So you got to tailor the KPI to what's important to the people that you're trying to motivate, and you got to keep it simple. And we tend to then make them large and rotate through multiple screens. We'll keep a screen up for a couple seconds and then roll it over, rather than one static screen sort of jammed with information.
Okay. I believe this next question is more directed towards Jesse. In your presentation and talking about productivity, you were talking about connecting it to different pieces of automation equipment. And this question is asking how many, or is there a limit to the number of HMIs or PLCs that can be connected to these systems for collection and then display of data?
Yeah, that's a big depends. If it's there's solutions out there. I've seen solutions that are very well tailored, very plug and play, but not flexible, and they're specifically designed for a single line, a single manufacturing line. So it's a single set of KPI data. It's easy to implement because you just select the KPIs you want and away you go, but it's not flexible. Our solution, in contrast, allows you to communicate to a virtually unlimited number of devices, but I do want to echo what Bob just said. Simpler is better. So if it's connecting to numerous devices to be able to crunch the data from those different devices and come up with a simple set of KPIs, because maybe it's a drive, a PLC, a barcode scanner, a serial weigher, all on one machine, then it makes sense to connect to a lot of different things. Just be careful if you're talking about using a single solution to communicate to 20 different lines, each with a PLC, a drive, et cetera, because then you can increase the complexity of the visual part of the tool, if you see what I mean. So virtually unlimited. There's no real hard limit. I think it's some ridiculous number, hundreds. But in these types of applications, you do want to use it sparingly so you don't ruin the visual effect of it.
Okay. And the topic of wireless has been pretty big in industry here for the past few years now. We've gotten a couple of questions regarding that, both asking about the wireless capabilities with these units, and if you have any examples where use of like collecting data from wireless sensors has been used in a discrete environment to feed data into these and-on displays or TVs.
Typically, where the wireless has come in, the answer is that our particular devices don't have any inherent wireless. There's on an expansion card, for example, that offers wireless for the product. So an external gateway or device would need to be used. Wireless does come up frequently as it relates to transmitting the actual image. So rather than mounting the solution near the TV, a lot of customers will choose to use off-the-shelf consumer wireless video transmitters. The neat thing about, one of the other neat things about using TVs is that you get to leverage all the consumer accessories, which means they're cheap because they're sold in very, very, very high quantities. So there's just a plethora of tools available out there to run signals further distances, and wireless is one of them. So as it relates to the wireless video transmission, there's a lot of tools. As it relates to wireless Ethernet or wireless sensor interfaces, definitely would be an external gateway.
Okay. We've got another question here talking about SQL backends, asking if it's capable with these systems to pull data from the SQL backends from a quality management system and data collection systems. Is it possible to pull data from that into these displays?
Yeah, some of the solutions would offer that. The Redline solution currently has the ability to push data into SQL backends for analysis, to drive continuous improvement initiatives. Where that product currently falls weak, and I say currently because it's an initiative that's underway now, is to modify the code a little bit to allow pulling of data from SQL systems. Customers are doing it today through FTP connections, writing data to the onboard compact flash card to be displayed. Obviously, we want to make life as easy as possible for our customers, and we have received a uncountable number of requests to be able to suck data directly out of SQL for display, and that's something we're currently working on.
Okay. We're coming up to the top of the hour, so I believe we have time for one more question here in this. And this one's asking about integration with smartphone. Is display integration with smartphones typically, does that go through SMS messaging and email, or are there other avenues to use through smartphones?
Some competitive devices, and I don't actually mean visual management tools. I'm just talking about general automation equipment that I've seen some of our competitors do things like offer apps to allow you to connect. And Redline, since 2003, has embedded a web server in virtually all of our interface products, including our visual management tools. So any smartphone with a browser on it's capable of viewing the information screen. They also do support SMS text capability as well as email, so there's various ways to monitor and or control systems. You can actually even control our device with SMS messages if you want. Again, it seems silly to have mentioned something like that 5 years ago, that you would control a process via text message, but you'd be surprised at the number of requests that we get for that. So it's really 3 different ways that it integrates with a smartphone: email, text, and the standard browser that comes on the phone.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jesse, and thank you, Bob. We'll go ahead and wrap up the Q&A session. Thank you for everybody attending this webcast. We do appreciate it. I hope you learned quite a bit about visual display management. And before we close, I'll turn this back over to Jesse one last time and Bob for any closing remarks and follow-up for more information that the viewers can turn to for more information both directly from Red Lion and Chicago Electric. Jesse?
The only thing I have to add is I'd like to thank Automation World for the opportunity, Chicago Electric for joining us on our first user webinar, first user webcast, and particularly like to thank everyone who attended today.
Jesse, and my thanks to you and your company and Automation World, and I hope everyone found this informative, and let us know how we can help. Thank you.